like to introduce Dr. Alice Beretta. She's an equine veterinarian. She's also a really good friend of mine, and she's going to be talking about nerve 2 activation for your horse and what it means for your horse and for other people that you love. Since Kayla's not on, I'll go ahead and say Alice graduated from UGA. She is what UGA folks call a double dog. She got her bachelor's degree from UGA and her DVM from UGA. So she's also a wife and a mom of 2 adorable boys, and she has her own mobile equine veterinary practice. So she's really got a juggle going on. She's super busy. So thank you so much, Alice, for taking time out of your busy schedule to help us tonight and tell us about nerve 2 for your horse.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate it. That was a great introduction. And it's really such a wonderful thing to share with people that I can't get enough. You know, I really feel like so many more people should know about it. And, you know, some of you may not know what nerve 2 activation is, and I'll explain in just a little bit. But really, it's such a great tool, a great way to support our horses. And when it comes to your horse's health, there's a whole team approach to it. There's the owner who is there every day to see how the horse is doing and notice some of those subtle changes. And then you have your farrier who works on the horse's feet, and maybe a trainer or a groomer. You know, there's so many different people that can be involved in the horse's health. And by the time the veterinarian gets called, what I've noticed is that there's usually a big problem. It's no longer something subtle. It's something that has gone on for too long. And so what I'd like to share with you guys today is a way to support our horses so that hopefully you can intervene or you can help before those huge problems occur. Sorry, Christy, will you go ahead and flip the thank you? So before I go on and tell you too much, I just wanted to kind of share my family and my story so that I'm not just a stranger standing in front of you. But this is my husband and my 2 boys, and I'm a practice owner. I own my own practice. I've been in practice for over 15 years, but I'm also the mom of 2 boys. So it's kind of a juggle. And I see every day when I get called that I feel like there has to be something more that we can do to support our horses. And so this is just a really great thing that I love to share with people. And initially when I found out about it, I was at a point in my career where I realized that there are a lot of things that we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. A lot of things that we see in horses, our options for treatment are kind of limited. And so I've always felt like there's got to be something more. There's got to be something else that we can do to support them. So Christy, go ahead. So at the bottom of all this, and kind of the root cause of a lot of diseases and a lot of inflammatory conditions, is something called oxidative stress. And most people don't know what oxidative stress is, but what it is all animals that breathe oxygen, the byproduct of that is oxidation. It's these little free radicals that attack our cells and damage our cells and damage tissues. And so it's very important that our bodies are able to reduce this oxidative stress or neutralize these free radicals. And you know, what it is it's oxidation of the body, kind of like rusting of metal, or when an apple turns brown when you cut it in half. It's really what oxidative stress is, and it is what results in aging. Okay. So the big question is, how do we fight oxidative stress, and how do we reduce this free radical damage? And there's 2 different types of antioxidants. Most people know that antioxidants are good for you and they're a good thing. But what most people don't know is there's 2 different kinds. There's direct antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin E, the things that we see in our supplements that we often give our horses. But there's also these indirect antioxidants. And those are complex molecules that the body makes. So it's not something that you take, it's something that your body is making. And those large molecules work completely differently. Those antioxidant enzymes work at 1,000,000 to 1 per second versus a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you this is a good way to picture it, if you're looking at a gigantic house fire, and that house fire is your oxidative stress. You can throw a Dixie cup of water at that house fire, and yes, you're helping a little, but in the grand scheme of things, you're not making a difference. So the way to really reduce that oxidative stress, or get rid of that house fire, is going to be more like your fire hose that is spraying continuously nonstop and is going to actually extinguish that fire. And so that's kind of a good analogy to see the difference. And most people just aren't aware of that. So what we're going to tell you about is a way to increase those antioxidant enzymes and be able to really extinguish those free radicals. And the way to do that is by NRF2 activation. And the moral of the story is not to take more antioxidants, because those are actually toxic at higher levels, but to make more antioxidants. So this is kind of a nerdy little schematic, but I really like it because it really explains how NRF2 activation works. And it's literally a DNA wake-up call. And by activating that NRF2 protein, it turns on your survival gene. And I don't know about you guys, but I could use all the survival that I can get. I own my own practice. I'm on call 24/7. I have small children. I juggle like a mad woman, and sometimes my diet is not perfect. So it's just really important to be able to activate that NRF2 pathway, especially as we get older. So this is a little diagram that shows you the NRF2 activator is the little purple mushroom. And when that pathway is activated, it allows the little red circle, NRF2, it's just a messenger protein, to enter the nucleus of the cell in each and every one of your cells, bind the DNA, and turn on those survival genes. And those survival genes are the ones that decrease inflammation, result in the production of those antioxidant enzymes that are so crucial, and decrease fibrosis and inflammation. But you can see how important that is. And the more we activate that pathway, the better off we are. So if you haven't heard of Protandim yet, I'm just kind of excited to be able to share what it does for people. But what Protandim does is it activates that pathway. It activates that NRF2 pathway in a way that it can lower, or actually lowers, oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days, which is huge because oxidative stress is the root cause of inflammatory conditions, of diseases. And so if you can reduce your oxidative stress by 40%, and to help your body decrease that stress and that inflammation, so that hopefully you're not faced with some of those things. And Protandim, if you're wondering what's in it, it actually has 5 herbs. It's a nat product. It has 5 herbs that are all amazing in themselves. I mean, they've been used in Eastern medicine for thousands and thousands of years. But what's really cool about Protandim is the synergy of the formula. They were able to combine these herbs in a way to make them much more effective. So the synergy of the 5 herbs is really the magic, is why it's able to reduce oxidative stress by 40%. And what's also really cool about that is because they work synergistically, the amounts are very small. So you're not faced with side effects and drug interactions and things like that you would with higher doses. And the herbs are, and you may have heard of some of these: turmeric, milk thistle, green tea, ashwagandha, and bacopa. This is a cool graph. I like to share this one because it really shows you how important this pathway is. Just over the last few years, pharmaceutical companies and, different universities have been doing a ton of research on this pathway because of the potential, because of what it can do and how much it can help. And this is kind of cool, but when I found out about it, the first thing I thought of was, why haven't I ever heard of this? Why have I never heard of NRF2? And I have a background in biochemistry, and I hate to admit it, but actually I graduated in 1998 with my biochem degree, and the pathway had just been discovered, and there just wasn't, it wasn't known. It wasn't being taught in school, and there really wasn't much research, and nobody really knew what it did. But since then, more and more studies have come out. Pharmaceutical companies are trying to make something that can work like Protandim. So it's just really cool that we have a natural product that's safe, that can do what most pharmaceutical companies are chasing and trying to create. And the beauty of it is it's natural, it's safe, it works with the body. You get that natural pulsatile rhythm, that NRF2 protein is released and it activates the pathway, and then it kind of turns off and starts over again. So that's very different from pharmaceuticals that don't really work with the body, and they turn on the pathway and leave it on. That's when a lot of side effects and different things happen. Oh, this is great. This is one of my favorite papers. If you guys love nerdy papers, then absolutely, we can email you the link so that you can read this. Initially, when I found out about this, I really dove into all the studies and just got carried away and stayed up all night long just reading all this nerdy stuff. I guess my brain was missing school or something, I don't know. But my kids were super young, and I remember looking at my clock and thinking, oh my gosh, I have to go to bed. They're going to be up in 4 hours. But this is a great paper. If you're looking for science, if you're looking for real science, you want to go to pubmed.gov, and that's the National Institute of Health website. And you can plug in Protandim and see all the peer-reviewed studies. It's crazy. I mean, we actually have 28 peer-reviewed studies on Protandim, which is unheard of for a supplement. Usually there are no studies, and you have to look up the ingredients and search them individually. So it's just incredible to have so much research and on a natural product. But this paper is one of my favorites. The title really explains mostly what it is, but it just says NRF2 is a master regulator of detoxification and also antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and other cell protective mechanisms. And they actually, this is, third party. It was published by Washington State. It's not associated with our company at all. But one of the quotes in that paper is that NRF2 may well become the most extraordinary therapeutic and preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. And that's huge, because the same paper actually talks about Protandim and the synergy of the herbs and how it works. And so it's just, this kind of sums it up. Once you hear this information, I would feel guilty not to share it. Once you've seen what it can do and how it can help others and help your patients, you really feel driven to share the information. This is another good paper. I just wanted to throw it in there. It just talks about oxidative stress and equine medicine, and that your goal is really to maintain that antioxidant-oxidant balance. If you have too many oxidants and not enough antioxidants to remove them, where cellular damage happens, and your organs are made of cells, and your whole body is made out of cells. So really, it's just as simple as maintaining that balance, because oxidative stress is what leads to damage and disease. So how does oxidative stress affect your horse? And these are things that I see every day, that most of you, if you've owned a horse and had more than one horse, you probably see these things. But metabolic diseases like Cushing's, metabolic syndrome, and then laminitis is a side effect. Those are linked to oxidative stress. Inflammatory airway disease or equine asthma, eye conditions like uveitis. I see a lot of that. You know, a lot of anything that ends with an itis is linked to inflammation and oxidative stress. Osteoarthritis is a big deal. You know, when we have athletes and we're trying to keep them young and, you know, at their tip-top shape, you really want to help decrease the stress on their joints. Tendon injuries. You know, we've all heard that dreaded, you know, diagnosis. Nobody wants to hear that their horse has had a tendon injury. And exercise-related fatigue and injury, you know, we see that a lot in race horses or endurance horses. And sarcoids and other tumors. You know, the bottom line is cancer or tumors or abnormal growth. And what happens when those free radicals enter the cells and they damage the DNA of those stem cells, that's when abnormal growth happens. And abnormal growth is cancer. That's what tumors are. So oxidative stress and cancer, there's definitely a huge link there. So things that you can see when you activate that NRF2 pathway and you're able to decrease inflammation and turn on those antioxidant enzymes, some of the results that you'll see is a better skin and coat, increased energy and endurance, a healthier immune system, better joints and mobility, reduced joint pain and inflammation, stronger resistance to allergies, better tooth and gum health, which is a big deal. You know, horses really do rely on their mouths for nutrition. If you guys have ever owned an old horse with no teeth, you go through a lot of senior feed. You know, it's tough. So you want to maintain their gum health as long as possible. Better cardiovascular health, increased mental function and alertness, and just overall reduction of age-related health problems. Oh, good. So this is Puff, and I wanted to share Puff with you guys. He was my first patient that I actually put on Protandim. And as soon as I found out about this and did a bunch of research, I knew he would be my first guinea pig. He really just had a really poor quality of life. He had a history of chronic laminitis of 10 years or more. I had been his veterinarian for 9 years, and nothing we did could help him. He would have a few good days here and there, but they weren't good days. He spent 85% of the day laying down. He was just in terrible, terrible pain. And we had discussed euthanasia, but I don't think that the owner was ready. And I thought, as soon as my Protandim comes in, I'm putting him on it. And sure enough, he responded like I never imagined that he would. And quite honestly, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. I mean, I'm the one who took those videos, and I remember playing this video and thinking, this is crazy. And it just made me realize the potential. You know, there's an answer to everything. We just have to find it. And it was the answer for this guy. So many people, so many horses, that I really feel strongly that this is information that needs to be shared. So Christy, I'll let you play the video. This was before I put him on it. He had these cute little aluminum shoes. The video is not the greatest quality on my end, so I hope you guys can see it. But he was just very stiff. It was painful to walk. After about 3 weeks, he seemed a little better, more willing to walk, and I was actually already kind of impressed. After 8 weeks, you can definitely see there's still a lameness there, but he's like stealing some grass and, you know, feels good enough to have a little bit more spunk, you know, more willingness to walk. And then after 12 weeks, I was floored. I had never seen him walk this comfortably in the 10 years that I'd known him. And the only thing we had changed was this one little yellow pill once a day. And it was a life changer. I mean, it really completely turned him around. And I was just so impressed. with how he responded. And I just knew that I had to share with others, because if it could do that for this pony that had been crippled for this long and nothing had touched it, I just knew that it could help so many of my patients. Oh, and this is actually Christy's pony. Nissa is a great example. He also had a history of chronic laminitis and metabolic syndrome. And she was really diligent, kept him on a very tight diet, low starch, everything she was supposed to do. But despite that, he still had rings on his feet. He was still had that dished appearance where he had some rotation in that coffin bone. And I remember thinking, poor little guy, he's on this restricted diet and it's not working. And so sure enough, she started him on just one pill, one Protandim once a day. And it's amazing how, you can tell he grew a whole new hoof, in less than 9 months, or not even, like 6 months. So he was growing almost a centimeter a day, a centimeter every couple weeks or so. And you can see the rings on his feet as they grew out. And his new hoof growth is straight. You don't have that dished appearance. And he literally grew a whole new foot in just 3 months' time. It was amazing. And he's continued to do really well. She's been able to keep him on turnout. He doesn't have, his diet's not as restricted as it was. Some of his pads have kind of melted away. And it's just a whole new life for him. I just wanted to share that one. We have tons of testimonials, lots of great stories. Christy has a ton of them on Nerf2 Equine Health on Facebook if you want to look it up. Or you can send Kayla a text message and she would be glad to send you or invite you to the group. And then also, not to be forgotten, we all know lots of old dogs, barn dogs, horseshoe dogs. And we also have a canine version called Pet Tandem for dogs. And I had to share this picture because it's my friend's dog and they had set up some obstacles for him. But these old poor dogs, they don't live as long as we do, and their levels of oxidative stress are higher than ours. And so it's just an amazing way to keep them healthy. What I love about animals is there's no placebo effect. You have no idea that they're taking something different and that they're supposed to feel better. So when you see improvement within a few weeks and you just see their attitudes change, they're playful, they're running around and acting like they're 2 years old again, it's just priceless. So I'll kind of leave you guys with this. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, it's about supporting the body, supporting the whole horse, and just giving them the best quality of life possible. And it boils down to gene activation. It's about giving your body what it needs to reach its genetic potential. And we've all had our favorite horses out there that we want to do that with, and we want to keep them around forever. And I guess what I really want to leave people with the impression of is that this is amazing information and that it needs to be shared. And as this information came to me initially, it was just all about the science. But the more I found out about it, the more I realized that I wanted to share it with others. And it became kind of my side business, my side hustle. And that's significant. It really is, because I realize that even though I adore what I do and I want to do it forever, I really don't see myself at 80 years of age getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go treat a colic. And I just realize if I get hurt and I can't work, then I have no income. And all of a sudden one day I grew up, I have a family, I have 2 kids. I'm like burning the candle at both ends, and I realized that you can't keep going the way that you have been and just hope that you never get hurt or hope that nothing happens and that you can work, for the rest of your life. And I just, when I started to see this like truly as a side business for me, it just opened up my world and made me realize that there is so much more that I can do and so many more people that I can help outside of the people that I meet every day. You know, I live in a rural area. I can't really stand on my rooftop and announce it to the world that this is our way of doing it. So thanks for jumping on and for listening. Good night, everyone.